Hi, folks. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Just now close that, close you, get back to you, do you by so good, cool. How are all you doing? All is well? Greetings, 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 and good evening to everybody who's joining me. I'm trying to do the show a little bit slow this evening, like a little bit laid back and relaxed because I feel a little bit tired. It's been a long week. It's been a lot going on. So hi Paula, hi Gemma, hi Anissa Balroop, hi Trisha Tony, Trisha George, David Vincent, Renee George, Barbara, and Len Lees. How are you doing? How things going? Plenty has happened today. Plenty happened between yesterday and today. As you would know, I did a very quick live to toast the court ruling of Justice Kangaloo yesterday. And we're going to talk about that court ruling. There are two things we're going to talk about. In the first hour, we are interviewing Estate Police President Derek Richardson. And then in the, no, just now, wrong thing, you click there. Second hour, I'm going to be dealing up with this issue. Part of the reason I'm going to be speaking slowly this evening as well is that I am aware that there are several organizations and offices, some public servants, some private servants, that have actually been told that they have to transcribe my lives and follow everything I say, should in case there be defamation or they're looking, or I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. Is legal documents are going to be talking about this evening. So good luck to all who need to sit down and transcribe my life. Power to all you. I would have thought that we would be using public servants for far more useful things than watching my live on a Friday evening. So in my green room, I have the president of the Estate Police Association, Mr. Derek Richardson. So I'm going to bring him on now so that we can talk about the issues facing the security industry. And by the security industry, you know what I'm talking about. People who function as guards, watchmen, night watchmen, that sort of thing. So I'm bringing on Derek, and we're going to talk about the problem. Hi, Derek. How are you? Good evening.
Hi, Boda. Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Okay.
I saw the article that
Yes.
ran in the Express on Sunday, and then you would have reached out to me. So even
Yes.
though you hadn't reached out to me, when I saw the article, I actually immediately spoke to my researcher that works with me on this program, and I'd said to her I'd like very much if
Yeah.
she could pull together some documents for me about the security industry, so I could have started doing my background reading and researching. And then you reached out, and I thought, you know what, let's get this done this week while it's topical. So the first thing that struck me about the article, of course, is the big headline or the big quote in there about it being like slavery. So explain to me, because that's strong language.
Yeah. Yeah. It is strong but accurate language. At first, I just want to correct something you said earlier on. Estate policemen are in fact not watchmen or the security guards, quote unquote.
Sorry.
We are actually covered by an act of parliament, the
Mm-hmm.
Supplemental Police Act 1502.
Right.
We are called estate police officers.
Mm-hmm.
And the Act actually gives us all powers, rights, immunities, responsibilities, and liabilities of a police officer below the rank of corporal in the police service.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those persons who we loosely call security officers or security guards, in some way we always refer to them as security officers, are those persons who fall outside of that legislation. They do not carry a precept from the Commissioner of Police like we do.
So help me
Um,
to correct
so
the misinformation that I would have just passed on there. Estate
yes,
police
right.
are different from security
hmm
guards. And what makes the
In
distinction?
legally, yes. Okay. The distinction is the powers that we carry under the Supplemental Police Act,
Mm-hmm.
where we can effect arrest, take matters before the courts. As I said, we have all powers, rights, and immunities of that of a police
Mm-hmm.
officer below the rank of corporal. Those persons who do, and what we do, what has happened is that we get a precept from the commissioner of police after a test is administered, and you carry that precept, giving you the authorization to be an estate police officer on whichever estate is situated.
Okay.
So you would find a subsequently you'll find officers. Okay, so when they go to the airport and you see those officers walking around in the nice khaki suits, nice khaki colored suits,
Mm-hmm.
uniforms, they are all estate police officers. T and Tech,
Okay. Yes.
WASA, all the guys. Yeah.
Right. Good. Right. So
Right.
we've established what the estate police officers are. So then that means
Yes.
University of the West Indies, all of those lovely gentlemen that I see
Yes.
walking around in their khaki suits are estate
Yes.
police as well.
Estate police officers.
Okay, good. Well, then I know lots of estate police officers.
Yes.
So then explain to me,
All right.
when you
Okay.
talk about
Well,
conditions being akin to
mhm.
slavery, explain that
All
to
right.
me.
Okay. Now, just to explain, there, as we saw, we spoke of those persons in the state sector, right?
Mm-hmm.
By and large, conditions are not those are the conditions that we refer to.
Mm-hmm.
What we refer to is those persons who are working with those private companies, the conditions that they are forced to work under, and that is the slavery part that we speak of.
Right.
Now, the article was a combination of a number of things, and the reporter did reach out to me because of things she would have heard that we have said, and her own personal experiences where she would have recognized that something is wrong. So she reached out to me, and we had a really good interview, and she wrote that story. So everything that is said there is factual. It is something that this organization, this particular executive, which has been in office since 2018 of November,
Mm-hmm.
have been trying to get the public and the authorities aware of exactly what has been happening for decades, and the abuses need to stop, and there are challenges, of course, to that. So we decided, listen, we can no longer stay silent on these issues. These are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who are being put in these very uncomfortable, very abusive, slavery-like, colonial-like situations.
Right. So the term slavery, I take use of that term very seriously, right? So
Mhm.
I want to ask a couple
Yes.
questions. One, you're saying
Mhm.
that these conditions have been in existence for quite some time, not so much in the
Yes.
state sector, but I'm assuming private sector entities.
Private sector entities, yes.
Right. How long has
Yes.
how long has your oh my goodness, your organization been in existence?
All right. Well, the Estate Police Association is a creature of statute since 1901, but actually the EPA came into being via the same act. It is actually stated in the Supplemental Police Act, right? The formation of that act of the Estate Police Association came into view in 1950, 1961, right? So it is a lawful body. It is a body that is actually stated and mentioned in the act for the creation of the act, in the creation of that Supplemental Police Act.
Right.
In somewhere around, so it most, just as fast track, somewhere around 1990, you started after the coup, when a lot of buildings were burned, you find that a lot of companies, because of a lot of employer clients, in fact, businesses, wanted security.
Mm-hmm.
So a number of those private security firms keep springing up all over the
Yeah, the
place.
private I know from 1990 come forward, private security firms have sprung
Yes.
up, and now we have
Yes,
any
sprung up, yeah.
number of private security firms. So what I'm
Yes.
trying to grasp is this. I'm trying to grasp the association has been around for a while. These conditions, as you have highlighted them in the newspaper article about lack of
Yes.
NIS being paid, monies being deducted from people's salaries, the poor conditions that they
Yes.
have to work under. Those things have been in existence for a while as well. So I want to
Yes.
grasp what what at all in the time has the association been able to do. So like what have you managed
Where do these
to
matters go?
yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. But as I said, this, of course, we are subject to elections, right? So every 4 years there's an election. My executive, this executive has been in office since 2018. Good. So I will account for what this executive in fact has done. Right now, when we came in, of course, we would have had to do. We have known what was happening, so we went. But what has been to cut us a long story short, um, there's been a lot of victimization that taking place to stop people from joining the association.
Who is victimizing
Um,
whom? So who's doing the victimization?
Mostly the employers, those employers in the private security industry. I can provide for you at another point in time evidence of letters that would have been written by employers to us, and very arrogantly, just telling us, listen, there's nothing you can do, we can go ahead and victimize or not in fact stop people from joining the association because there's no law that stops us from telling them don't join, right? There's a number of reasons. The main reason for that is because we are not covered under the Industrial Relations Act, so we are not workers under the Industrial Relations Act. So um, there's no protection in law for us at that point in time, so that any employer of a state police can tell someone, listen, don't join the association, and if you join, just leave it in the air right like that. And those persons now are fearful for their jobs because most of them operating near minimum wage industry. They are very fearful of joining the association. So when they have complaints such as those that are articulated in the papers, they are very scared to bring it for us to take through the process of going to speaking with the employer first, and if it's not resolved there, then we take it to the Ministry of Labor for conciliation. And then if there's no resolution, then well, of course there's a non-result certificate to get, and we go to the special tribunal situated in the Industrial Court of Trinidad and Tobago.
Does your organization have a union? Are you attached to a trade union?
Well, we are a union. We are the union.
So then, why has
We
it been so difficult over the last few decades for your union to, I guess, bring
mhm.
pressure to bear on the employers to be able to change your working conditions?
Well, okay. There are a number of things. For a number of years, things has been done. There were a lot of administration did a lot of work. Let not be I want to be fair with this, right? There have been a lot of administrations have attempted to do a lot of good things to bring the conditions of the officers and them into line with what is best practice. Um, there were some stumbling blocks. There have been a number of times where there was some call it private security industry bill. Different things would have been done, with the government. It never really came to fruition. Um, but ostensibly, what has been our biggest challenge is really and truly the membership, those persons outside there who are afraid to bring these issues forward for fear of victimization, loss of job, less hours of work, and so on, such as that. That is our big stumbling block.
Okay, if you've got a union, if you are a union and
Yes.
you have been in a position to
Hmm.
establish these are the terms of reference for taking on an employee, right? So these are the number of hours, this is the basic pay rate, this is the vacation that they are entitled to. I'm just, throwing out hypotheticals here. If you have been in a position to, as a union, establish those things, then how are the employers still in a position to victimize workers? What is allowing
Because
them to be
it,
able to victimize workers still?
okay, okay. The association can only act when it receives a complaint. Okay. So let's say, for instance, you are in company X and you have a complaint. We can only act through the branch boards at that company once that company branch board receive a complaint, and that is the only point in time where we can act.
Mm-hmm.
So you must have a written grievance. Somebody says, listen, I have been done wrong, the XYZ, this is what has happened, and I want some redress. That has to be written, right? That is then reported to the company. If there is no resolve at the company, and I said it has to go. The only way we could reach to the ministry is having a written complaint.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of cases, that has been a problem, right? For some of the more serious things. Um, a lot of cases come now. That is not to say that we don't deal with a lot of them, because a lot of them are before the ministry and before the court as we speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the bulk, there are over probably 25,000 estate police officers in this country,
How much? Can you
and
repeat
our
that?
membership
Sorry.
could be about 20,000, right?
Wow.
Estate police officers, and our membership is just about 3,005,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a number of persons, that I said, they want to join, but they are fearful of joining. Some of them that do join do not even want the employer to know that they have joined. So instead of doing a salary reduction, they will go to the bank and pay it over come to the office and pay it over the counter, as the case may be.
Right. So
So
they
that's
will
why
do a
when we see
standing order and or an over the
a
counter
standing
payment.
orders over the
Right.
counter payment,
But
yes,
okay,
right.
are there I guess is there like a bargaining arrangement between your union and the employers that the
Yes,
employers have
in
been in
some
breach of?
companies, right. Yes, in those companies, once we have a bargaining an agreement, right, between parties, any breach of that agreement is what we take before the ministry, good,
Mm-hmm.
or the court, to the court. Any breach of industrial relations, breaches, of course, that is what our mandate is, to take those to the court. What you would have seen there specifically, when we speak of okay, let's say for instance, when we speak of the issue of the $40 for the um
Not shining the
job
boots
letters,
properly, or the $40 for the job letters. Right,
for the job
right,
letters, yeah.
right.
That is not subject to an agreement, right? Those are policies that the company put in place,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
for administratively. Good. So we will meet with the company once we receive a grievance about this. Now that has come to our attention. I think it was $20 before, and then they raised it to $40.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been trying to convince Amalgamated that this is totally wrong. You know, the $40, the $50 a month for the driver to pay to our insurance pool. That is totally wrong, and there are ways we challenging that, and to go to the ultimately end up at the court.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so those are the things. Now listen to this, Victoria. What we want to explain is that these people that say at 17.50 is minimum wage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have um persons who working at, let's say, amalgamated at $20.
Yeah.
When you take out $40 for a job letter, that's 2 hours of the work. Good. When you take out this $50 for driving for this insurance, that is 2 hours and a half. When you take out $20 per month to send your salary to another bank, that is another hour of work gone. When you force them to pay for their firearm user certificate, which everybody else pays on behalf, renews that on behalf of the officer, right? That is $130 or $50 per year. They take that out also. So when you actually check, what has been happening is that they have basically been funding themselves off of the labor of those officers.
So then I take it you're going to court.
Yeah, we are. We are. We are. It is in the process. These are things that we needed people to know that is happening, because you see, people have been operating very quietly, and all of a sudden, thought that they were everybody we were afraid to bring these things out in the public, So they continue to do what they wanted to do. We would have met with them and tried to solve these things bilaterally, and nothing has been happening. So listen, okay.
So are you considering a recruitment drive so that you get more employees on board with the with your union?
the EPA. Yes, we are. We currently doing that. We are doing that. Okay. What we have done since we've been in office. I guess a lot of people, that's by your question and by what the responses we get from a lot of people. People did not know that there existed this organization called the Estate Police Association. People come in and they aren't very aware, they were not very aware. So we've decided to do a number of things. Since 2019, we have a radio program on Power 102, and then we moved across to I 95.5. So from 2 to 3 p.m. every Monday, we are on I 95.5. We've now developed our website and better communication to get people on. When I came into office, we had about 1,500 people, and now we have about 3,500 people back on. So we have been successful. Moving is not as fast as you would like, it's not as large as you would like, but I think we are getting somewhere.
Okay, so we're in the closing minutes of the interview. So, Mr. Richardson, if you're in a position to, because I may have security workers that are looking on or estate police workers that are looking on, how do people find you? How do people make contact with you? How do people sign up for membership?
Yes. Okay. Well, yes, our headquarters is in Marbella, right? Batu Avenue in Marbella, 70 to 72 Batu Avenue, Marbella. You can also join on our website, estatepolicett.com. So we made it very easy for you. You don't have to come to physically get a form. This is the first time that has happened. So you can log on to that site. You'll see join the association, and you fill out that information there. We give you the account information as to where you would what account to pay it to, right? And it's as easier that we will give you a verification email, and we will keep track of your membership there. We'll give you all the details of the association. Any questions that you would like to ask, of course, you can email it to estatepolicett.com, and we also encourage them to get in touch with if they're in whatever company they're in, get in contact with their own local branch boards, right? But before I go, I really wanted to reach out and say, listen, these issues are not germane only to Amalgamated, right? These issues have been in a lot of companies also. People are working 48 hours without overtime pay, right? People are being forced to pay for their own uniforms and then return the uniforms when they leave. People have been complaining about bonds. When they come in, they have a $7,200 bond that they have to pay in case they lose something or something, and that's retrievable on exit, which you have to apply for.
But I guess what I'm trying to understand is why has your organization not been able to bargain to get rid of these conditions?
Well, because the process. No, the process is as if we take it to the industrial court. And the thing is that now the last 2 years, which is most of our administration, right? This COVID issue has stopped the industrial court dead in the special tribunal, dead in the tracks, right? But what has been happening, as I said, is really and truly the fear factor for getting people to actually sign agreements, right? These agreements that we speak of, most of them are in 2012, 2014, So to get some of those things actually into agreements, the proper things into agreements, you have to get current. And everybody is complaining, of course, that none of those things are current because a lot of things have been happening for the last 2 years, right? But certainly we can confirm most of those things that we speak are in train to where it is supposed to go, to the special tribunal, right? So some of it will be going to the High Court because some we can't take to the special tribunal. So some of it will go to the High Court.
Okay. All right, Mr. Richardson, thank you so much for joining us, and keep in touch as your legal battle, goes on, so that I can keep people abreast of what is taking place.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
No problem. Take care. Okay. Bye. So that was Derek Richardson, president of the Estate Police Association, speaking about the conditions that estate police officers are undergoing, especially within the private sector. According to him, not so much the state sector, the private sector, where it seems as if there are all kinds of wild things going on with working conditions. So if you know anybody who is an estate police officer in the private sector, they can inbox me privately. They can go to the News Source inbox and reach out to me. There's also News Source's email account, which is actually, I could probably put it up on the screen here for you all. Let me do it. Let me give all you what it is. Background. Let me make the background white, and let me make the text black. I feel so proud of myself. There we go. So if you need to email me, that's the email address, and everything comes to that inbox. That inbox is on my various devices, and I can pull up any information that you send for me there. And of course, it's all very private and personal because nobody else has access to that inbox but myself. And I have two-step verification and a number of other security features on that particular account. So if you've got any information for me, you can send the information to newsource2017@gmail.com, and we could, I have the information. So now I want to, as I see Kathy Hezekiah talking about how Gary Griffith mentioned a news outlet in his recent video, I clean forget to put that video here to play for you, so let me go and make sure that I have that video here so that we can all look at it and enjoy it, because you all know he was, he immediately sent out, oh my goodness, where is that video? Who did I send that video to? Where did I save that video? But we're moving on now to speak about what went on. Here we go. So I didn't even listen to the whole.
I have said very little, if anything.
I didn't even just now listen to the entire thing. Sorry about that. Okay, good. Right. So we could start to talk the things. How am I going to start talking the things? As need to vibes up myself and thing from time to time. So these days whenever I think of him, this is a song that is come to mind. Boom, 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 boom. Where is it, boy?
I hear with them. I hear with them. I hear with them. Whoa, 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 my friend. Yeah, my friend. Whoa, 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 my friend. Yeah, my friend. Say, pop a bottle, hey, 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 hey. Let me pop a bottle, hey, 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 hey. Say, pop a bottle, hey, 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 hey. Let me pop a bottle, hey, hey, hey.
Right. So let me get into this thing proper. Right? Proper. So yesterday there would have been the court ruling. Justice Kangaloo would have presided over the matter where Anand Ram Logan, representing Ravi Balgobin Maharaj, would have decided that they were bringing the Police Service Commission, they were going against the Police Service Commission, challenging the appointment of Griffith as acting commissioner of police. No, Sandra, I don't need tech guy no more. Tech guy has shown me everything that I needed to learn, and I am now doing my own thing. So he could go on hiatus for the rest of his life if he wants to. I have things under control for now, at the very least. In any case, getting back to the topic, getting back to the things, right? So Ravi Balgobin Maharaj functioning as the face of Anand Ram Logan in this issue. So I get the ruling. The ruling came to my inbox this morning. Actually, it may have come to my inbox last night. But after I had done the live yesterday, I went to teach class, and when I was finished teaching class in the evening, I put on all of my devices and was relaxing for the rest of the evening. So, I am going to tell you all how Griffith became a civilian, right? So let's go through the court ruling and discuss how Gary Griffith became a civilian. So let me start. Let me go from the jump day. Let me go into U day. Let me go into U day. Let me go into U day. And let's start. Oh, my goodness. Wildness here, yes. All right. Good. All is seeing that, right? So what for me was very interesting. Actually, no, this is not even right. This is how I want it. What for me was very interesting about this court ruling is this. Because I think by now everybody knows. Paragraph 4 was deemed void, null and void. Paragraph 4 was deemed unconstitutional. His appointment was also deemed to be illegal, an illegal appointment. And so, from that appointment letter that the Police Service Commission would have put out indicating that he have a walk from around the 17th of August thereabouts come down, that's null and void. So any decisions that he would have made, him specifically, Griffith specifically, right? Because there are people trying to spread mischief in the public domain to say we are no police officer and all the criminals and them could reverse things, and that's not how it works at all. But I'm going to explain that to you, and I'm going to break it down because I know who the source of the mischief is. And I'm just going to say the person who's spreading that rumor, the person who calling media house after media house after media house and trying to cause all of that fear-mongering amongst the population, the person who is using his or her legal power, might, and expertise to get people to think that the police service has collapsed because Griffith is not there as the acting commissioner. Stop your foolishness, please. Don't let me get to the point where I have to go in full make-out scene mode now. Please, stop the foolishness. So, that I'm going to eventually get to that piece of nonsense so that you all understand that there is still somebody in charge of the TTPS, right? So this is, I'm going through various aspects of the ruling, but I want you all to see some things. So, when you see Mr. Maraj as Ravi Balgobin Maraj, that is being discussed, and when you see senior counsel, when we're talking about Ravi Balgobin Maraj, that is Anand Ram Logan. But because I'm clear on who is whom, I will refer to them, right? So, one of the first things I want all to pay attention to is the second sentence here that says, senior counsel submits that the legal consequence of this non-compliance is that there was an effective transfer of the power and functions of the House of Representatives to the Police Service Commission. And that there is the crux, well, I would say, based on what I've read, is the crux of Anand Ram Logan's case. That in this entire debacle that took place, this entire fiasco, the Police Service Commission took upon itself the responsibilities of the House of Representatives. Now, I kept telling you all, because I talked about this, I broke it down, I explained it, and by Republic Day, when I come and I walk all you through the legislation and what the legislation's supposed to mean and what the legislation's supposed to say, everybody began to see that something was awry. Everybody began to see that there were steps in a process, and then all of a sudden the steps stopped. And it's either you fall off the process or something went wrong. So Anand Ram Logan's case basically says that the Police Service Commission took on the power of the House of Representatives. And you know what? Throughout this ruling, that becomes an important theme. Throughout the ruling, you are beginning to see that the Police Service Commission did things that it wasn't supposed to do. And an interesting thing about this case is the Police Service Commission on the front page, the first page of the ruling, is listed as an interested party. But by the time the case came around, the entire commission had resigned. So because the entire commission had resigned, there was essentially no service commission to come before the court to give any information. And that is critical. That's an important piece of information for you to remember as we go through this ruling. So you have Anand Ram Logan representing Ravi Balgobin Maharaj, and Anand Ram Logan essentially saying the main issue here for us is the Police Service Commission took on responsibilities that the House of Representatives is supposed to take on. And that is, the House of Representatives goes through the list of names, they do a vote, and whoever it is they settle on when they do the vote, that person becomes the acting commissioner according to the legislation. And then they send that back to the president, and the president tells the commission, and the commission appoints a commissioner. That never happened, right? Next slide. Right. So, Ravi Balgobin Maharaj, in the form of Anand Ram Logan, then says that Griffith is a mere civilian. And he's saying that Griffith is a mere civilian because by the time Griffith becomes appointed by the commission to act, something they didn't have the power to do, by the time the commission appoints him to act, Griffith is no longer a police officer. So he is contesting and saying Griffith is a civilian. And Section 123 of the Constitution clearly states that whoever it is you're going to be placing to act as commissioner has to be a police officer, right? So Ravi Balgobin Maharaj, through Anand Ram Logan, was saying Griffith is a mere civilian. And you see it there in the middle of the screen. Mr. Griffith was a mere civilian. His contract, where is it? Right. His contract of employment having expired, right? So mere civilian. And of course, I feel quite certain that piece of the ruling must be upsetting Mr. Griffith, who keeps insisting and has insisted for quite some time that he is not a civilian, he's the acting commissioner. He kept saying that repeatedly, and I thought to myself, on what grounds though? Like, on what grounds? Who had the power to appoint you as commissioner or acting commissioner? All right. So the next aspect of this court ruling is the Constitution itself and various parts of the Constitution. So they went to the 2006 Constitution because the act that deals with the hiring and firing and the appointment of commissioners and acting commissioners, there was amendments of the act in 2006. And what Ram Logan and they contend in their submissions is that the changes and the amendments that were brought to the Constitution were such that, actually, I need to pause for a second and jump back a little bit. The Police Service Commission has been around since before independence, right? And that the Police Service Commission that was around since before independence had way more power than the current Police Service Commission has. That Service Commission used to do all appointments, not just commissioner and deputy commissioner. It used to do all appointments and all when people have to be disciplined. So all the disciplinary tribunals, etc., all of those things. Now, jump forward to present day, the Police Service Commission is constrained in terms of its powers because over the years there have been amendments to legislation. And so now the Police Service Commission can appoint the commissioner and the acting commissioner and deputy commissioners and hold tribunals, but they don't really have that much power in terms of hiring and firing for the rest of the police service. That power now resides under the commissioner himself, right? So Ram Logan says in his submission that they understand that what would have happened under the 2006 Constitution, the amendments that happened then, was to take power from out of the commission's hand and put the power in the hand of the parliament, right? And so when you put the power to select a commissioner in the hands of the parliament, hands of the parliament, you then have a situation where it's every MP who has the opportunity to get up and have a say on the issue, as opposed to the 4 or 5 persons who sit on the commission. So it allowed for, I would say, like more transparency. It allowed for more persons to have a say in who becomes commissioner, and for there to be a whole debate. It also continued to have the president function as a buffer between the government and the service commission, right? So, next part of the ruling that I felt was interesting. So, this is where the defendant for the case, which would be the state, the Attorney General, the Office of the Attorney General. For me, I highlighted this bit in red because this is where the state admits that what happened was not supposed to happen. So senior counsel for the Attorney General, and the senior counsel for the Attorney General on this was Douglas Menz. What I thought was interesting about it is this. A couple weeks ago, the sitting Attorney General, A.G. Al-Rawi, said to us publicly that the person who drafted the legislation was Douglas Menz. At the start of September, around September 3rd, thereabouts, the AG would have gone on record in the newspaper saying that the law was good law, right? Paragraph 4 of Legal Notice 183, good law, it had no problems there whatsoever. Then he came down by the 22nd, 23rd of September, thereabouts, and had to backtrack. The Prime Minister would have himself at a press conference said what happened there was unconstitutional, and he's directing the Attorney General to go to court and indicate that what occurred was unconstitutional. Basically, he was sending the Attorney General and his lawyers to court to agree with Anand Ram Logan. All right, and that's what I want you all to understand. It isn't just me saying this thing in a vacuum. The Prime Minister himself would have at a press conference on or about the 23rd of September, I think, because Republic Day was a Friday, and I believe it was a Thursday evening that the Prime Minister would have said these things. He said the legislation, Legal Notice 183, was unconstitutional. He said he was instructing the Attorney General to go to court and indicate that. And not too long after that, the Attorney General would have said in a newspaper article that the person who drafted the legislation was Douglas Menz. So I thought, but this is curious. And for me, it's ironic, and it's also funny that the same person who we're told drafted bad legislation or weak legislation is the same person who is now in court representing the state, right? I just thought it was a little bit on the curious side. So senior counsel for the Attorney General frontally concedes that the acting appointment of Mr. Griffith must have been subject to approval from the House of Representatives. It right there, it in front of all your face. The Attorney General's lawyers come out and say, they concede frontally that Griffith's appointment had to happen in front of the House of Representatives. So when I read things like this, right? When you see things like this, you had to pause and ask yourself, so how is it that when this foolishness took place back in August 2021, when the appointment letter from the Police Service Commission came out, right, and basically said we appointing him based on this, that, and the other, how is it that nobody then knew that his appointment was supposed to happen in front of the House of Representatives? How did nobody then, the very people who would have drafted the legislation, passed the legislation, how is it that then in August they didn't realize that the Police Service Commission had no power to go about approving and appointing Griffith as acting commissioner? Nobody else find that strange? Nobody else here thinking, how is it possible that what month we in? October. That October the 15th, everybody could agree, well actually yesterday in the ruling, right? Everybody could agree in the ruling on October the 14th that his appointment had to happen in front of the House of Representatives. Nobody seemed to be aware of this in August. How? How is it that the state lawyers were unaware of this in August? Right. So, with respect to clause 4, paragraph 4, I've underlined the bits here, and it says, clause 4 does not seek to confer power, but provides for the submission of a list of nominees only. You all need to understand something. State attorneys went in the People Hoth Court this week and admitted, right? Well, actually not just this week and a couple weeks ago, and admitted that clause 4 wasn't supposed to give the Police Service Commission any power. Well, certainly not power to appoint. The only power they were supposed to have was to provide for a list of nominees. That's the only power. So again, if you know in October that they were only supposed to provide a list of nominees to the president, why was nobody aware of this back in August of the same year? Right? 2 months ago. 2 months ago, you know. So 2 months later, all you're aware that this is what was supposed to take place. And 2 months ago, you were not aware that this is what's supposed to take place? This is madness, right? Right, and then in paragraph 106, it says that the court should hold that when the Service Commission proposes to make an acting appointment, it must comply with clause 4 and sections 123 2 to 5. I sit down right here on September the 24th with all you. I sit down right here on Republic Day and went through section 123 1 to 5, telling all you this is what's supposed to take place. So if I, who is not a lawyer, because I am not a lawyer, I don't have a law degree, I never went Heward in law school, all I just do is sit down and read parts of the Constitution. If I could read this and say to all you, I think this is what's supposed to take place here, you know. So wait till take place day on August the 20th. Me ain't think that legal, you know. How I could figure that out, and people inside the office of the Attorney General couldn't figure that out. Also, how is it that nobody in the Police Service Commission, because the Service Commission have a whole lawyer, how they didn't figure these things out? The ruling yesterday, this ruling that I'm going through here with you, is an embarrassing ruling. It's embarrassing because it comes across as if all of these persons either A, don't know the law, or B, conspired to break the law. So, this page here is part of Griffith's defense. And I want all you to hear the main aspects of Griffith's defense. Griffith contends that he should continue to be the acting commissioner because he was within the police service and he was still on contract. And I'm like, you weren't still on contract, because the whole issue here was that your contract had ended and you were waiting to have your acting contract start. And Griffith himself gave an interview in the media wherein he said he didn't have a new contract from the state. Up to now, I don't think there's been any document in the public domain to show that there's a contract. We know that Bliss Prasad, acting on behalf of the Service Commission, would have issued a letter on the 20th of August appointing him, doing something that she had no power to do at all. But Griffith is here saying, or Griffith's lawyers are here saying, that he was still within the police service as he was still on contract. How? Your contract ended on or around the 16th of August. And the acting appointment that they gave was around the 20th of August. So I am confused by this. Then his next point is he was qualified for the post. Okay, but there are other people who were qualified for the post. According to the order of merit that was done back in 2018, you was the last person on the list of persons to qualify for the post. So there were at least 3 or 4 other persons back in 2018 who qualify, and I feel quite certain there are other persons who applied recently for the, in the new hiring process that could probably qualify for the post as well. Then he was the immediate person last approved by the House of Representatives. So what? So what? And the police service had the chance to observe Griffith during his tenure, and his confidence in Griffith remained intact. So you see, Part D has me confused. Like, how is it that he knows that their confidence in him remains intact when in the last couple of weeks there were all of these letters back and forth basically saying, stay on leave, don't come off leave, we're going to have to revoke your acting appointment. What's really going on? So this, I felt this was curious, very curious. I also felt that it was a weak defense put forward here by Griffith's team. I thought there would have been a more legal argument from Griffith's team, basically a contract to show that he'd gotten a contract from the Ministry of National Security, something far more concrete other than just the appointment letter from the Police Service Commission. So when I realized that really and truly there was nothing else in here based on the documents that I was seeing that showed that Griffith was ever rehired by the state, I was like, what really going on here? Like, and this paragraph 172, I had to stop and question mark it, because Griffith finally asked the court, or Griffith's lawyers, right? Because this is Griffith's claim here. He finally asked the court to note, Griffith's lawyers, I think it's Larry Lalla was Griffith's lawyer, finally asked the court to note that the Police Service Commission obtained tacit approval from the executive in respect of Mr. Griffith's acting appointment through the Ministry of National Security. You see this? You see this paragraph here? This paragraph have real bacchanal in it. You know why? When you say somebody has tacit approval, they've been given tacit approval. Tacit approval is quiet approval. It is approval that has not been voiced. So it's like, all you know, I like something in particular. I ain't come out and say I want you to do it, but you know I like you to do it, and so you'll do it based on a quiet understanding. This paragraph here had me real confused. Because according to this, Griffith is saying that he had a quiet understanding with the government to return as Commissioner of Police. That's what this paragraph is saying, you know. It is saying that Griffith's lawyers have said that Griffith obtained, that the Police Service Commission obtained tacit approval from the executive, and the executive there is the cabinet, right? In respect of Griffith's acting appointment. So who gave the Police Service Commission tacit approval, and how does Griffith know that the Police Service Commission got tacit approval? That, listen, this, I sit down, I read this, I turn around and ask a partner and say, you hearing what is I reading out here? You're understanding, you're grasping? And he said to me, quite calmly, he said, well, Griffith's lawyers are basically saying that there was government interference. That is what is being said here, you know. Because if you're saying that the Police Service Commission obtained tacit approval from the executive, then you're talking about interference. So now you have to ask yourself, who from the Police Service Commission was making contact with persons from the government or from the executive? And of course, this is if Griffith and Griffith's lawyers are telling the truth here about tacit approval. But this is a bacchanal clause. This is a bacchanal paragraph in that ruling. Because you get to that part of the paragraph and you are wondering, tacit approval? Who gave whom tacit approval? And how is Griffith aware that there was tacit approval? Right? Then comes paragraph 181. And let me tell you why paragraph 181 is important enough for me to put it out here. Paragraph 181 is the reason, it outlines and it explains for us why we don't have the full story about what took place and why we will never have the full story about what took place. The entire Police Service Commission resigned before the court case began. They didn't resign because they felt it was the right thing to do. That's not why they tendered their resignation. That isn't why they tendered their resignation. They resigned so that they would never have to make any statements before the court. Because in this paragraph, in paragraph 181, you have the judge pointing out that we have lawyers for the Police Service Commission here, but there's no Police Service Commission. So the Police Service Commission or the lawyers can only be friendly observers of the court proceeding. If there was still a Police Service Commission sitting, certainly the last commission, if Bliss C. Prasad, Suzanne Craig James, Roger Kewal Singh, and Courtney McNish were still there, they would have to submit affidavits. They would have to explain several things. One, by whose power and authority did they approve the acting of Griffith? That's the first thing they'd have to explain. Then they would also have to explain all of the things that happened subsequent to his appointment. The issuing of the letter, the withdrawal of the other letters asking him to remain on leave, and any of the other things that took place that eventually ended up in the public domain. But with all of them having resigned and tendering their resignation before this court matter took place, none of them have to submit an affidavit. So they have all, in resigning, made it so that they never account to the public for what happened here. So we know that the state would have we know how we came up, we know how we got to legal notice 183. We know how we got to the appointment of Griffith. We know, based on this ruling, that the appointment was deemed null, void, and unconstitutional. We know that Section 123 of the Constitution still needs to be upheld and the list needed to go to the Parliament. What we don't know is why the Police Service Commission did what it did. We don't know. We don't know. I know that there was a newspaper story that indicated that the Attorney General said the Police Service Commission wanted amendments to the law. He brought the amendments, but the amendments are flawed because it doesn't give any real power. It does not give a complete process. So, I wanted to get to paragraph 215 to explain something. There's been a rumor pervading all over the place. I've been seeing people saying we don't have an acting commissioner. All of the cases that were made under Griffith are no longer applicable, and criminals could sue the state, and all of that. Bullshit. And let me explain why. There is something called the de facto officer principle. There's also something called the doctrine of necessity. Whether or not Griffith had a legal acting appointment, what remains clear is the TTPS has to have a head. There must be somebody who is the head of the TTPS. And how it functions is the most senior officer at that point in time is the person who is the head of the TTPS, just based off the de facto officer principle or the doctrine of necessity. So everybody who feeding all of the foolishness about it ain't have no commissioner and this person appointment illegal, and now this mean that all of the cases crash, and that's not the case, right? So throw it out the window. Anybody come to you with a strip it up, just tell them the doctrine of necessity. That's all I had to tell them. Doctrine of necessity. And I was very glad that Justice Kangaloo raised that issue here in paragraph 215. So let's move forward. I mean, this 222A and 222B basically point to what is the legal process that was supposed to have taken place. So now let me get down to the disposition and the order. So what the judge would have ruled yesterday is that the appointment of Griffith is void and unconstitutional and contrary to Section 123 of the Constitution. So it was illegal. They also indicated that the Police Service Commission acted ultra vires, as in outside of its power. The Police Service Commission basically did something that it was not empowered to do. And they also declare that paragraph 4 of Legal Notice 183 is superfluous and struck out in light of Section 123 of the Constitution. What's going on here? Right. Why is all of this important? By Sunday, I know I will have to do another live. And I will have to do another live because this afternoon I heard that Kamla Persad-Bissessar has decided that she is going to seek to impeach the president. One of the things I've noticed is the minute I come and do a live and say this had to happen or that have to happen with somebody from the government, 2 or 3 days later, Kamla does jump out herself, hold a press conference and say basically the same thing that I've said. So I would have said that the Police Service Commission needs to resign and step down. I think I said that, I know I said it on September the 24th. The Monday thereafter, Kamla would have jumped out to say the same thing. And I was like, oh, that's unoriginal. Then I would have said that the Attorney General needs to step down. A couple days later, Kamla jumped out to say the same thing. Then yesterday, I would have repeated that the president needs to step down because too much foolishness taking place here now with the Police Service Commission. Kamla called a whole press conference this evening to say that she's going to try and impeach the president. So I'm wondering, if I turn around and I say Kamla Persad-Bissessar needs to step down as opposition leader of the United National Congress, is she going to call a press conference on Sunday and resign? Because if that's the case, I'll say it. Kamla, in all seriousness, given your silence on what went on with Anthony Carmona when he was president, you have no moral authority or leg to stand on to ask any president to step down or step aside, or to even attempt to impeach a president. What I will say is this. On Sunday, I am going to talk to you all about the role and responsibilities of the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm going to indicate to you where her responsibilities lay with respect to the Police Service Commission, as well as with respect to the appointment of a commissioner of police, acting or otherwise, so that you understand precisely what took place, and so that you also understand that there was interference, there was some sort of influence taking place on this Police Service Commission that has led us to the place that we are in right now. I'm also going to talk about David Naked on Sunday, because I feel somebody need to talk about David Naked. Somebody need to hold David Naked to account and ask David Naked if he's aware of what exactly a senator is supposed to be doing. So, when I see you all on Sunday, we're going to discuss Kamla. But for tonight, I wanted to discuss these persons. I want to discuss Bliss. I want to discuss Suzanne James. I want to discuss Roger Kewalsing. And I want to discuss Courtney McNish. And I'll tell you why. These four persons had a very big responsibility. They were in charge of selecting, assessing, and evaluating the person who's responsible for our police service. Crime is a big issue for us here. Crime is a huge issue for us here. Crime is something that we can't stop talking about in Trinidad and Tobago. As a matter of fact, elections are lost and won on the issue of crime. Elections here take crime so seriously that sometimes people can be given a job just because a government thinks, okay, maybe you can do something about the crime situation in the country, right? Those things can happen. So we have four persons who would have been given the responsibility of having oversight of this person's appointment and having oversight of evaluating this person. These four persons, actually no, 5 persons, because the president has a role to play in all of this. These 5 persons had, I would say, one job. The Service Commission's job was to compile a list of nominees and send the list of nominees on to the president. The president's job was to then send that list of nominees to the parliament for the parliament to vote. And I, for the last however many weeks, actually 2 months, 2 whole months now, I have been trying to understand why did that list never get to the parliament? And when the list didn't get to the parliament, who told these 4 persons that they had the power to appoint an acting commissioner? And when they realized that they didn't have the power to appoint an acting commissioner, why did they all run off and resign and avoid explaining to the public precisely what took place? What exactly are these people covering up? That's the question I have. So you all have yourselves a good evening. I am going to relax a bit and, you know, take in some, I don't know, Netflix or something. It's too late for me to run and go in the cinema. So I'm going to take in some Netflix. Enjoy. Where are we? Bye, folks. See you all on Sunday.